Hello and welcome to another edition of On Our Terms, a video series by AIA Contract Documents. In this video, we're going to be talking about the top 3 questions that we get about the G701-2017 change order form. My name is Mike Koger, and I'm joined by my colleague Jimmy Germano. We're both staff attorneys for the American Institute of Architects in Washington, D.C., and we work in the Contract Documents Department. In this video, we're joined by Ben Siegel, who leads our Documents Information Service. If you have ever called us to talk and ask us questions about our documents, you've probably talked with Ben. As always, we cannot give legal advice in this video, and nothing you hear in this video is a substitute for consulting with an attorney who is licensed in your jurisdiction who can talk with you about the specific issues that you're facing. And with that, Jimmy, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started talking about the G701.
Sure. So Ben, I want to get into like the top three questions that you get about the change order form when people call in. But before we do that, I want to maybe give you a moment to pause and say, is there anything that didn't crack the top 3 that would be considered like an honorable mention for questions you get about the change order form or change orders generally when people call into docinfo?
Yes, so a few items. So this is considered to be a form as opposed to an agreement. And so generally what we mean by that is a form is usually a 1 or 2 page document that just establishes something, in this case a change order, which is establishing a change to the job as opposed to an agreement. And an agreement is usually a multi-page document between parties. And when editing an agreement, we recommend editing offline, which means in Microsoft Word. However, today we're going to be talking about G701, which is a form, and for forms we recommend editing online in the online editor, which means that you're editing through your browser. And again, we'll see the various systems, how that works, but you are working online, so that is an important thing to keep in mind when you're working to save and work online.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thanks, Ben. So let's roll into the top 3 questions. We'll start with the third most popular question that you get, and that is, how do you edit the main field of the G701 change order? So I'll just tee up that question, send it over to you, and let you explain how to do that.
Yes, so first of all, the main field is the field where it says the contract is changed as follows, as you can see on the screen. And so first of all, a change order, G701, or our various other change order documents are for any type of change. So this doesn't necessarily have to be time or money, although that is often the case. So you can have any type of change you want. And so there is a main field, what we're calling a main field, which just says the contract is changed as follows. And then there is a blank, and you can put whatever you want in that blank, including referring to some sort of attachment. So this is what it looks like on the document itself. And so you edit it, again, in the online editor, which you can see here. So the previous screen was the final document, how it's going to look. This is the online editor. So again, it's in your browser, it's online, and so you click that little button or link that says edit, and that's how you edit this field. So you can then edit in this little box, and you can see that there are some things that you can change, like for example, you can bold, italicize, you can change the font, the type of font, the size, and a few other things. So it is similar to what you would experience in Microsoft Word, although it is not the exact same experience as editing in Microsoft Word. And again, you can always just type in see attached and attach some sort of separate exhibit if you want, which may be easier if you're trying to do a lot of complicated editing, but you can type pretty much whatever you want into this field, and then you click OK, and then it's going to insert that into the document.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So the second most popular question that you get is importing data. So somebody wants to, as they're filling out the G701 change order form, they want to import some data into that form, maybe from a prior document or something else. Can you just go through the process quickly and explain how to do that?
Yes, so importing data is very important, and the way it works in the change order is similar to the way it works in our payment application forms, which are G702 and G703 if you've worked with that. So the idea is when you do your first change order, you create the document in the online editor, and there's going to be this pop-up box. And it does allow you to import from a previous change order. So for your first change order, obviously there's nothing prior to that. But for subsequent change orders, you can import data from the previous. And so you just simply select that box. It's grayed out, as you can see right here. But for your second and third and all the subsequent ones, you will be able to click that and just import from the prior change order. And then again, you click OK, and it'll bring forward the information from the prior change order into this, the current change order.
Great. And now getting to the the number one question that you get, how to account for a deductive change order. And before I turn the mic over to you, I want to just kind of explain a little bit about how this works, and it ties in a little bit to definition of change order, and that comes from, in most instances, that's going to come from your A201-2017 document. And probably should have said this at the onset, but it's more relevant to this question than any others. A change order is defined in section 7.2.1 of the A201 as a written instrument prepared by the architect and signed by the owner, contractor, and architect stating their agreement upon all of the following: change in the work, the amount of the adjustment, if any, in the contract sum, and the extent of the adjustment, if any, in the contract time. And I think a lot of people, when they think of change orders, they think of an increase in the contract sum, but it can be a decrease. And if it is a decrease, it's usually known in the industry as a deductive change order. So a change order can be subtracting amounts from the contract sum. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and say, if you do have a deductive change order, how do you go about doing that in the G701 form?
Yes, and this is deceptively simple, but there are a few little tips and tricks here. So again, you're creating a new change order every time there is a change. So if the parties agree to a change, you're creating a new change order. Your first, your second, your third. So you're creating a new document. You're importing the data, as we just talked about. If it's a deduct, you just simply select decrease, as you can see in that field, and then to the right you put the number of the decrease. The important thing to note here is you want to put the number, but you do not want to put a minus sign or put the number in parentheses, because if you do that, it will actually add, because subtracting by a negative number effectively adds. So again, it's very simple. You just put decrease and you put the amount. The only important note is do not use parentheses, do not use a minus sign. It'll automatically calculate, as you see here in the online editor. You put your number, and as soon as you click to another field, it'll automatically give you that calculation.
So just to go back to some middle school math, what you're making me do now with subtracting a negative, the numbers on the side there, look, let's say you have $1,000 original contract sum, and as long as you select the drop-down for decreased, you don't have to put a minus sign behind the 250. You can just say 250, and then the math embedded in the document will automatically subtract 250 from 1,000, and that's how you get 750. Is that kind of how that works?
Correct. That's how it works. So there are formulas in this and other documents. So if you say increased, it knows to add. If you say decrease, it knows to subtract. And so that is, as you said, it's like the middle school math. If you subtract by a negative number, it adds. So that's why if you were to use a negative number, if you put a minus sign or if you use parentheses, it'll add, which obviously you don't want for a deduct. So you just simply put decrease, you put the amount, in this case, let's say 250. You can see there's no minus sign, no parentheses, nothing like that, and it automatically calculates and subtracts.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Yes, Mr. Koger.
Yeah, I just want one point of clarification. Jimmy, something you already said, but I want to highlight it, is that a change order is an agreement between the architect, contractor, and owner on changing the work and the price or the timing. And a lot of times, Ben, it seems like we get questions from folks where a contractor will call in and say, well, I have a change order, but the owner hasn't agreed to it. Well, that's not a change order. That's a proposed change order. If you don't have full buy-in from everyone and the contractor is proposing it, it's a proposed change order. It only becomes a change order once all parties have agreed to it and have actually signed, the form. Similarly, if you have the owner and the architect who have agreed to a change in the work, but the contractor hasn't agreed on the pricing, you're not in the realm of a change order. You're really, until you get that agreement, you're in the realm of a construction change directive, which is a different document that we may talk about in another video. But that seems to be a question that we get pretty regularly.
It is, and I would add that we have a CCD, like you mentioned, a construction change directive, which is a directive to the contractor to do some sort of change, even though the parties have not agreed on the terms yet. Change order is when you have agreed to those changes. There's another document, the proposal request, and that's to gather information related to a potential change. So we do have those types of forms, but the change order that we're talking about today is assuming that everybody actually agrees.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's a good clarification. Thanks, Mike. If you want some more information, you can contact us at the information on your screen. And if you like this video, you can feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which has updated videos pretty regularly. And remember to click the bell icon so you can get a notification when we do submit a new video. And with that, thank you, Ben. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.